All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Happy New Year. My name is Len Thompson, and I'm Broadcom's Mainframe Division Community Manager. I want to welcome you to our first webcast of the year. It is about CA1 Flexible Storage, a new product that we're excited to tell you about today. Before I hand you off to Perry Jones, who is the product manager, I have a couple of things I need to go over. First, a few questions along the way, and we always hope that you do. Please use the right, look at the right-hand side of your screen, and you'll see a questions box. Put those in there. Perry has authorized me to interrupt him along the way. So if you have a question, put it in there right away, and I'll ask it, and we'll make sure that we get it answered along the way. If for some reason we can't get to all of your questions, if something requires a little bit of research, or if we run out of time, I'll make sure that Perry and Mark get everything that they need to follow up with you after. We are recording today's session. That's why your lines are all muted. The replay will be available out in the CA1 community probably tomorrow morning sometime. And then the last thing from me is we want to make sure these sessions are valuable and that you're getting the information that you expect to get. So with that in mind, I pulled together a quick survey that's going to pop up at the end of the webcast. If you can stick around for an extra minute, literally a minute, it doesn't take long at all, to give us some feedback, I know all three of us would really appreciate it. That's it for me. So take it away, Perry.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. So I'm Perry Jones. I'm the product manager for CA1 Flexible Storage. And I'll be taking you through the updates that we have recently made to the product, as well as some possible future enhancements that we're looking to work with you guys as the community to get validation for and make. Just a quick disclaimer. The content in this presentation, we do have some future directions and visions. Broadcom reserves the right to change that at any time without giving any notification. I apologize, my video is not working today, but here is me. I'm Perry Jones, product manager for CA1 Flexible Storage. We also have on the line Mark Warren, which many of you know. Mark is the offering manager for all mainframe storage products. So I just have CA1 Flexible Storage and Mark has everything. You can reach out to either of us at any time and we'll be happy to answer questions or direct you to the right folks. Today's agenda, I will be quickly taking you through cloud storage industry trends and why we've made the enhancements to the offering that we've made. I'll take you through some business use cases that customers like yourselves have shared with us. I'll take you an overview of the actual architecture of CA1 Flexible Storage and the changes that we've made. I'll then take you through some of the security enhancements, including things like quantum encryption. We've got some slides on some performance testing that we've done within the lab, and then we'll just close it out with a summary. So jumping right in. Data storage requirements are growing rapidly. Looking at an IDC Worldwide Storage Sphere Forecast report for 2021 to 2025, they predict that all installed storage is growing at around 19.2% annually. Now, if you look at the orange part here, enterprise storage, they see this growing even faster at almost 28% annually. And of course, enterprise storage is where we are with our mainframes. And this makes a lot of sense because we're capturing more information about our customers. We're looking to do, competitive analysis and just do more tracking of what customers' buying behaviors are, and even AI in some instances. So definitely storing a lot more data. We at Broadcom worked with an analyst firm called the Evaluator Group. They reached out to enterprise customers like yourselves and did a survey, and they wanted to look into what exactly was driving your cloud usage around storage. When they went out and did this evaluation, they found that there were three main themes that came up. The first is that customers like yourselves were looking at cloud storage to simplify their infrastructure. Second was that in some cases, cloud storage could actually provide them a lower cost than on-prem storage. And then, of course, addressing some sort of company mandate to use the cloud in a meaningful way. And of course, if you've ever tried to containerize a ZOS Kix type application, that's very, very difficult to do. But something like storing data and backups in the cloud is one good way to use the cloud in a meaningful way. You'll get a copy of these slides after the fact, and I've actually included a link to download the full report, so you can read that at your leisure. For the storage admins out there in the audience, you'll probably have one or many of these challenges. How can I reduce my hardware costs? How can I leverage existing investments in people, process, software, and hardware when it comes to storage? How can I use cloud backups for both cold storage and meet my company mandates? And how can I maintain the security of the data that I write up into the cloud? We don't want that compromised and have some bad actor actually have access to that data. And then, of course, how can I migrate off old devices to newer devices as things go end of service? As I go through the next set of slides, we address all of these with the enhancements that we have made with CA1 flexible storage. So you may know the product by its old name, CA1 Tape Management. Because of the updates that we have made, we have decided that it needed a new name. So CA1 Flexible Storage is focused on allowing you to store your data anywhere, ransomware defense, flexibility, and of course, cost efficiencies. Flexibility is all about storing your data anywhere, whether that's physical tape, virtual tape, cloud, whether that's on-prem or off, as well as being able to use low-cost storage commodity hardware as well in your data centers. It's easy and simple to set up. It's CA1 under the covers, so you don't need any new skills, and it supports all of the existing targets plus some additional targets, including the cloud. We don't require any application changes for existing CA1 customers. And best of all, if you are an existing CA1 customer, you're getting all of these features and enhancements at no additional charge. All you have to do is upgrade to the new version of the product. I'm going to take you through some of the use cases that customers have shared with us, and then we'll jump into the architecture and some of the security enhancements that we've made to the product. So the first one is ransomware. This is all about protecting against hackers and ransomware. Ransomware or malicious insiders can corrupt, encrypt critical business data, making it impossible for your company to conduct business until that compromised data is restored. We're addressing this with our immutable volume technology. Immutable volumes are unchangeable and can never be deleted. I'll talk a little bit more about that in some following slides. With immutable volumes, you can quickly restore critical data and get your systems back up to minimize revenue loss. And in some instances, if you want, I'll actually provide a link to a red book where you could IPL your system from these backups. Globally, down at the bottom, some statistics around ransomware. 90% of all financial institutes are targets for ransomware. About 20 billion is projected cost loss in 2021 for ransomware. The average downtime is 3 weeks. Just imagine you couldn't run your business for 3 weeks because of a ransomware attack. And then when you do pay off and get the keys and recover that data, a lot of times 46% of that data that you do recover is actually corrupted. You know, these criminals aren't shutting down these systems cleanly. So when you do recover those systems, they have corrupted data. Some examples on the right-hand side of ransomware payouts. There was a large financial institution in the US that had to pay out $40 million to cyber criminals to get the keys for ransomware. And last summer in the US, the entire Northeast fuel supply system was actually shut down, the Colonial Pipeline, and they had to pay out $4.4 million in ransomware to get the keys to actually bring those systems back up and online. Moving on, Zero Trust. This is all about verifying that all users' devices while enforcing security policies and data sets at a file level. We do this with file level encryption to make sure that users and devices inside your organization are who they say they are. Our file level encryption is integrating directly with the IBM Quantum Safe algorithms that are supplied in the pervasive encryption, ICSF key management. We can encrypt files all the way down to the dataset or file level. And this makes it so that if you do write data up into the cloud and someone steals that data, it will be fully encrypted with keys stored on the Z box so that they can't do anything with it. Some examples of cost associated with data breaches, PII customer data costs about $180 per record to resolve when this occurs. So just imagine a few thousand records and the cost will add up pretty quickly. In 2021, the cost of data breaches was up approximately 10% to around $4.2 million for an organization to resolve on average. Next is archive backup. This ensures that you always have a master copy of your critical data in a secure cloud location in case all other tape backups procedures fail. So this allows you to have a golden copy that's available for recovery. Our solution, CA1 Flexible Storage, requires no specialized hardware to do this, to write up into the cloud. It also requires no specialized Linux environments. This is all native ZOS type applications. We actually had a customer who talked to us about how they had an error in a backup batch job. This error was not discovered until after they had marked their tapes for scratch and reused them, and they had overwritten and lost reports that they had to give to the government. So they had to pay fines along there. Using this technology and making sure that you have that one last copy, golden copy up in the cloud would have prevented this. They could have gone up there, grabbed those, and then had those reports. Some examples down here, up to $50,000 per violation for a HIPAA violation, $40K per violation for a COPA, that's healthcare, or HIPAA's healthcare, I'm sorry. And of course, GDPR over in Europe costs approximately 4% of a company's annual revenue. So this can add up really quickly. There was a hotel chain that was had to pay out $23.4 million for GDPR failures, as well as a large clothing retailer that had to pay out $37.3 million. The last use case has a couple different pieces to it, but it's all about the return on investment and how we can reduce your storage costs, whether that's administrative, hardware, infrastructure, and software. As I mentioned, this is enhancements to the CA1 product, so your CA1 administrators will be able to take the knowledge that they have today and the jobs that they have, they won't have to change those. The hardware and the infrastructure, we keep the costs down because you can now use the cloud as well as low-cost commodity software. And in that same report that talked about all of the how data was growing for enterprises, which I showed in the beginning, 1 petabyte of data backed up to the cloud will save you approximately $1.4 million annually. So over 10 years, that'd be $14 million possible savings. Moving on, just a quick summary of the use cases, and we'd always love to hear other use cases that you guys might have. Ransomware, we're addressing that with our immutable volumes. Zero Trust, which is verifying users and devices in your organization. This is all about our file level encryption. Archive backup, so this is our cloud backups to the cloud, and then of course a return on investment, which I just talked about. So getting into the architecture, for those of you who have been around a little while, you probably recognize this architecture at a high level for CA1 tape management. A tape request comes in, and then that tape request will get sent off to a virtual physical attached appliance, and that data is most likely sent on an unencrypted fiber channel connection. And then once it gets to the virtual device, it will then be encrypted at rest only. This is really good for meeting security requirements that if someone takes a drive out of the box and runs out of the data center, they can't do anything with it because that drive will be encrypted. But if you're putting test data and production data on that same physically attached box, and someone gets access to the box that say is just a tester, they would also have access to production data. So what we have done to enhance the architecture for CA1 flexible storage, now this is what the architecture looks like today for the new version. A tape request will come into CA1 flexible storage. You will have the option or the ability now to compress and encrypt the data. Once you have compressed and encrypted it, you can write it out to a virtual tape appliance, just like you do today, whether that's, you know, a TS7700, a Dell EMC, Luminex optics device, or we have added our virtual volume technology to CA1 as well, and that compressed and encrypted file can be written out to the virtual volumes, and the virtual volume technology will handle writing it to a cloud that supports the S3 connectors, or out to a physical device as well. You can write out to 3 different locations. We also still support all of the other locations, whether it's disk, ZFS, peer-to-peer, Sysplex, etc. Now, again, this all runs on ZOS, on IBM Z hardware. If you have the newer versions of the hardware, we support the zEDC hardware encryption, compression, as well as the encryption cards. And whenever possible, we've offloaded as much of this processing to zIIP engines. Now, I want to make a note about compression because this was a unique result that we saw in the lab. And I think you'll also see this benefit. By selecting the optional compression, we were seeing in our test results that non-binary files would compress down about 90%, binary files down about 60%. This means that on average, we could compress a file down about 75% before writing it out to a storage device, whether that was the cloud or whether that was a physical attached device. This means that there was a lot less IO that had to take place. And we actually saw that batch run time, wall clock for our batch backup jobs decreased 30% or more on average by doing compression before we wrote it out to the devices, which, you know, in most cases, people are writing it to, say, a TS7700 and letting the appliance do the compression. But if you have tight batch windows, using our compression technology, which is using the hardware compression that IBM introduced with Z15, we can actually shorten those batch backup windows. I'm going to pause there for just a second. Mark, did you want to add anything additional to the architecture?
No, we're good for now.
Okay.
And I apologize, I had to come off mute there. But no, the big difference, just keep in mind, if you're not with the Z15 or 16 where the chips are on board and so forth, we still support the cards and so forth. And if you do not have either of those, then CA1 does have its own built-in compression algorithms as well.
Yep. Yeah, so we can support compression and encryption if you're on older hardware. It just uses a little bit more processing versus offloading it to the compression and encryption engines that IBM provided.
Correct, and there again, it's all on the zIIP.
Yep. So I mentioned this, and I just want to emphasize it. Using the different utilities, we did some testing in our lab environment on a Z16 with zIIP engines, and we saw that ADR-D SSU was able to, with encryption and compression turned on, reduce the batch or wall clock runtime by 44% for our test jobs. And of course, offloading that to a zIIP engine offloaded 33% of the CPU that would be used without using a zIIP engine. We have similar results for some of the other utilities as well, 48% decrease for ID CAMs and slightly less, 8% for IB beginners. But the big one there is that 44%. You know, it almost halved the wall clock time. So if you've got tight backup windows, you're running a lot of backups and you need a little more time in your batch windows at night, this might be an option for you to free up those batch windows. If anyone wants more details on the actual performance results or would like us to get some test numbers for their environment, feel free to reach out to us and the team would be happy to work with you to see what kind of results you could see in your environment. I mentioned above, to write to a cloud, we are supporting the Simple Storage Service, or S3 connection type. This was originally developed by Amazon and has now become an industry standard. Whether it's a hosted cloud provider, AWS, Google, IBM, etc., we support that as long as they support the S3 connection. Or if you have a self-hosted on-prem cloud solution, even something as simple as a NAS device with S3 support, these days are relatively inexpensive to set up. You could do a self-hosted environment. So we support both hosted and self-hosted environments for public and private cloud. As long as it's using the S3 connector, we can support your cloud as a target for writing backups. A little bit on security. File level encryption is now supported. So we can encrypt all of your files with, if you want to, an individual key for each file. Once you've done this and you write it up into the cloud, nobody can have access to it. It's being done specifically with integration with pervasive encryption or the ICSF key database. So we have support for ICFS key database to do encryption. Now, along with that, in Z16, IBM released encryption algorithms which were supported by NIST for quantum safe algorithms. So we actually support quantum safe algorithms as well. And then, of course, lastly, the last bullet down here is immutable volumes. We are supporting immutable volumes, which are fixed, unchangeable, and can't be deleted. And I'll talk a little bit more about those on the next slide. So what exactly is an immutable volume? Immutability by itself is just the state or condition of being unchangeable. An immutable volume is fixed, unchangeable, and can't be deleted. We ensure that if you make a volume immutable, that you can always recover that volume. This helps avoid things like, human error, deleting your backups, bugs in your code, deleting them, accidental deletion, or the big one is the insertion of ransomware. So if a malicious insider or person has access to your system, this immutable volumes are different than logical worm volumes because you will not be able to append to an immutable volume like you could with a logical worm. If you had a logical worm volume, you could actually append ransomware to the end of it, and then when it gets restored, that ransomware would be there. But with immutability, once that volume is terminated, you cannot append to the volume itself. Now I'm just going to touch on how we integrate or could integrate immutable volumes into your environment. With the TAMz, or Trusted Access Manager for Z, we have the ability to integrate with CA1 to make sure that no one on the system has super user privileges to change out the CA1 application. Everything has to go through CA1 for both backups, and you will have to get elevated privileges in order to get access to that. So if you're using immutable volumes along with the Trusted Access Manager, this is how we would be able to help prevent and secure against ransomware attacks. Now, this is a much deeper conversation. If anybody is interested in having an architectural conversation around immutable volumes and security when it comes to Trusted Access Manager, feel free to reach out to us and we'll set up a whole nother session.
Hey, Perry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we did have one question that came in a couple minutes ago.
Sure.
Did you test with HSM?
Mark, is part of our testing with HSM?
Yeah, we've tested with both. We've tested with HSM and we've tested with CA disk as well. So the that part has been done.
Great, thanks guys.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, and feel free to ask questions. We'll be happy to answer them. So I just want to, I put this slide together because we really do want community involvement in any of the future enhancements that we make. Now that we have GA'd CA1 flexible storage last month, we are looking at a few enhancements, but we'd love your feedback as to which ones we should be focused on. For example, as we were going through our initial development and testing, the question came around immutable volumes and having the ability to expire immutable volumes. So customers wanted the ability to be able to expire an immutable volume and set an expiration. That is something that we did manage to sneak into the GA before we GA'd it in December of last month. So that is now available. We are working based on customer feedback. You can see we're working on some reports or a cloud wizard that would make some suggestions for files that have a long retention policy that haven't been accessed in a while, that would be good candidates to write up into the cloud and save you some money and free up some storage space. We are also working on enhancements to Copycat, which Copycat comes along with CA1 at no additional charge as well, to support encryption and decryption. So you'll be able to use Copycat to copy files up into the cloud. We have a couple others around virtual volume enhancements and key rotation. We have limited support for key rotation today. It's very difficult to do key rotation with IBM's pervasive encryption ICSF key database. But because we are using a label technology that we've introduced, we have the ability to do some additional help you rotate your keys on a monthly basis without having to go through and change all your JCL jobs. And of course, we're looking to add support for additional encryption algorithms, things like secure keys. You can see here that green check mark means we've already delivered it. The purple is work in progress, and the OV is open for voting. So we'll put those up on the community's ideation website and let you guys vote on future enhancements that you might want to implement. And of course, if you have other enhancements that you would like us to do, please let us know. So just in summary, CA1 flexible storage allows you to store your data anywhere. We can help secure and protect your data against ransomware, as well as encrypt it up in the cloud to meet your security mandates. We're able to reduce batch processing with those shortened wall clock runtimes. And of course, we can save you quite a bit of money, whether it's cost reductions for writing data into the cloud or using cheap commodity storage on-prem. This is a software-only solution. There's no additional special hardware that you need to write to the cloud, and there's no Linux environments that you need. And of course, all CA1 customers will get these enhancements all at no additional charge. When the slides are shared out with you, I did include some additional links. So product brief, press release, and some other videos and red books that I mentioned, as well as some tech docs that we have put together for the offering. So with that, if you have any other questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat. Here is my contact information once again, if you want to reach out and have a deeper discussion on any of the features and functionality that I just presented. So with that, Len, it's back to you.
Thanks, Perry. We actually do have one question, and actually Mark just gave me the answer in Slack. The question was, can requested expire immutable volumes be paused? He said yes. I don't know if you want to expand upon that at all.
Yeah, so you can actually expire something within CE1, and within that you can say, okay, even though I expire that, keep it around for 60 more days, or 90 more days, or 120 days. And even though it'll be expired, it'll never be scratched. So yes, there's ways to do that.
Great, thanks, Mark. That looks like it's the last question, folks. If you do have any questions, please put them in the questions box. If you're writing something long, maybe just quickly type in wait and hit enter so we know to wait for you to type. And I will also remind you that we have our post-event survey that'll pop up here at the end. We would love some feedback on today's webcast.
Yep. And our goal is to get you guys more involved in the community and the features that we're adding, right? So we will put things up in there and let you vote on them, and we want your feedback. We'll be happy to, meet with you guys in person or over WebEx. We've got support teams that can do analyze performance. So, we're here to help.
And keep in mind, this year we'll have we'll have an MTE session up and coming. This year we'll have a live MTE in Plano. Mainframe Technical Exchange will be live in Plano, and we'll also have a virtual one at the end of the year. And the ultimate goal here is making sure that with CA1 flexible storage, we're moving forward. And hopefully, if you're looking at it and you're wanting to use it and go into production with it, hopefully we can talk about doing a presentation together, partnering, doing a presentation so other customers can benefit from your experiences as well. So we'd like to work with you in that aspect as well. So we're looking for development partners all the way around. Any help or participation from a customer point of view would be greatly appreciated. And again, Perry will publish all this to a PDF to Lynn. Lynn will publish it, I guess, in the next day or two, Lynn. And yep. all of our contact information is included. If you already don't have mine, please just reach out. It's no big deal.
Thanks, Mark. I don't see any other questions, so I think we can go ahead and wrap up. Everyone, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it, and we'll hopefully see all you next week at our CA1 Roadmap webcast session on Tuesday. Have a great one, and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.